Hey guys, hope everyone out there is doing good. Today is September 29th, 2019, and in this video I just want to make a short clip here looking back at my presentation at Anarchadelphia a couple of weeks ago. Now, for those of you who aren't totally caught up, basically I was going to go out to Anarchadelphia because I heard Zach Hubbard would be speaking out there, and I had reached out to the guy running the conference just to see if he had, seen my website and my work. And basically, we ended up thinking about running a workshop there. And that was basically the understanding I was in when I went out, that I'd be running a side workshop and people could pay a little money and then we'd talk about numerology. But fortunately, I was able to speak on the main stage at the conference this year. So on the second day of the conference, on Saturday, a little bit after noon, I was able to go up and hook my computer up, take the presentation that I had prepared for, a week or two beforehand, and present that to the entire audience. So it was a great thing for Gematria, finally on stage somewhere, getting to speak to a large group of people. And it was really encouraging. Roughly about half the people who were in the audience at the time said they had heard of my work or Zach Hubbard's and my website. And people were really excited by the information. Even those who had not heard of Gematria were very excited after the speech was over. There was a lot of energy in the room. A lot of people wanted to talk to me about it. It felt like everyone I made eye contact with after my speech wanted to, tell me how much they enjoyed it and, maybe give me their take on it. So for someone like me who's spent close to 3 years now doing basically nothing but making Gematria videos on YouTube with my free time, trying to explore and better understand this matrix, this world that we're living in. To do that for 3 years and then finally meet people who recognized me from my work, and not only that, but were very accepting to the information and wanted to talk about it. And, I think a lot of people watching these videos can understand that in your real life, when you talk to people that you really know, you're kind of the odd man out with this information. People don't exactly want to hear it, but this was the complete opposite. Everyone was really interested, and I was tapping into people's numerology and explaining to them why they liked certain numbers. A guy named John came up there and asked me why he liked the number 47 so much. He just said he always liked how it looks, but he never knew why. And I typed in his name, John, and saw, hey, it sums to 47. It's like, dude, people have been calling you 47 your whole life without you realizing it. And this goes along with my theory that at a subconscious level, people are actually able to calculate gematria in their heads, and it's as if it's actually a primary function of our brains without us being conscious to it. And to me, this is just, another example of how the world around us works. So I did focus a little bit of my presentation around organic numerology, because at this point, I'd be doing myself a disservice if I didn't mention it. And, I did mention how fake or news stories are being published that appear to be fake, that all happen by the numbers, how people, especially celebrities, musicians, die by this eclipse code, but then also how this code appears to be relevant in our own life. And a big thing I mentioned about that is just my name. Here I am teaching the language of Gematria, and this is all stuff I figured out after the fact. My first and last name sums to 142 in the alphabetic order. That's the same as Gematria in the reverse alphabetic order, 142. And Gematria is a combination of numbers and letters. Well, my first name, Derek, has matching Gematria with numbers almost all across the board. And then my last name, Tikuri, sums to 99 and 90, which is the same as letters. So there's something mystical about the language of Gematria. And this is just one example of hundreds I could come up with. I talked about the numerology of my house that I purchased, relationships that I was in, all of these things happening by the numbers. And on my trip to Philadelphia, this culminated in perhaps the most extreme organic numerology experience that I've ever had. And I did actually show a picture that I took of this event on my way out to Philadelphia during my speech, but I didn't really look at the numerology by the time. And now that I've looked back and paid closer attention to where I was on the road and the city I was outside of. It just blew my mind because the numbers didn't have to line up, but they absolutely did. And this is what I want to share with people. So to begin with, this whole thing in Philadelphia was my first public speaking opportunity on this topic of Gematria. And this is appropriate because Philadelphia, see how it has this 61 value in reverse reduction? My name, Derek Tikori, sums to 61 in standard reduction. And the date that this conference began, September 13th, had primary numerology of 61. So it was, you could make a case that there was a little bit of destiny in me going to this conference and finally having the opportunity to connect face-to-face with people who have seen this work and wanted to talk more about it. Now, my birthday is June 4th, and the conference began on September 13th. And see how this is 101 days after my birthday. So what a great day for me to first visit the city of Philadelphia, 101. And the name of the conference was Anarchadelphia, which equals 101. We'll look at this number more in a second. But this is something, again, that I experienced on my way out there, and it's almost too ridiculous to make up. Like, if I was going to make something up, I wouldn't do this. But, I was driving down the road, and I was about a couple hours outside of Harrisburg, where I stayed the first night. And as I'm driving, I see a rainbow, and it had been misting throughout my trip through Pennsylvania for, most of the time. And I hadn't seen a rainbow on my entire trip out there, and I saw one to my left as I was driving, and I kind of snickered to myself and said, "Oh, a rainbow, what does it mean?" Just as a joke. Well, then I turned, to the left on the freeway, and I noticed the rainbow literally ended directly in the middle of the road in front of me. And this really struck me because I can't remember very many times, if any, that I've actually seen the end of a rainbow, much less driven directly through one on my way to somewhere that I felt I was somewhat destined to be at to begin with. So I kind of had a moment where I was like, geez, that was pretty crazy. You don't see this every day. It's pretty rare. And granted, 850-mile drive, you see a lot of things, but I would not have expected that this was one of them. So I took this picture while I was driving, and I was very careful, all right, one hand on the wheel. And you can see there's a mile marker here on the side of the road. Now, you can't make out the mile marker. It's a little too blurry. So what I did is I went to Google Earth, and I found the image on the freeway where it was basically the exact same spot I was. And you can see this by the trees. You can see this with the scenery. It's pretty clear. This is definitely exactly where I was on Interstate 76 on my way between basically Pittsburgh and Harrisburg. And look at the mile marker on here. If you zoom in, you'll see that this is mile marker 163, and then it says 0.8. So what this technically means is that, the rainbow was at mile 163, and if it was, a little bit down the road, I guess you can say it was at mile 164. Well, in the language of Gematria, we have this Frank-Baconus cipher, and this is the standard alphabetic order, but it also uses capital letters. And this cipher has always been very interesting to me because I feel like this is the first cipher I was ever introduced to as a child when we went into kindergarten. They had the alphabet written like this above the chalkboard. Remarkably, the word rainbow sums to 163 in this method. And here I am seeing a rainbow at mile marker 163 on my way to teach about Gematria. And then you could argue, well, if you don't use the capital letter, rainbow's 164. And again, you can make a case that this rainbow was actually at mile marker 164. Now, there's also another capital letter cipher called Francis Bacon. And this is similar, but notice how it starts with all small letters, and then for every capital letter, you add 26. So here, if we type in the word rainbow with the capital letter, we get 108. So if you go to Google Maps, this mile marker where I saw this rainbow mile marker 163. It was right outside of Breezewood here on 76. And what kind of blew my mind is that Breezewood, Pennsylvania equals 108 in both reduction methods. Just like the word rainbow, 108 with capital letters. So again, the rainbow was sensational enough as it was. And it didn't have to line up by the numbers, but by golly, it did. Also, there's Jewish Gematria, the other major cipher I teach. I think this might be the most significant of all, but obviously, we try to keep it simple here. Well, in Jewish Gematria, Breezewood, Pennsylvania, summing to 3007. In reduction, rainbow equals 37. Also, 44 reverse, just like Breezewood. I mean, it's almost too much, right? And then this is something Bobby brought to my attention, and I wouldn't have thought to look for this, but I ended up doing a search, and this is totally legit. I looked through the King James Bible, and this is something you can download from my website if you go to the top menu and click Miscellaneous. And if you go to the King James Bible and you search for the word rainbow, you only get two verses, Revelation 4:3 and Revelation 10:1. And this tripped me out so much because, for one, in the alphabetic order, my name, Derek, equals 43. Although my nickname most of my life has been Tick, 43. And here I was on my way to Anarchadelphia, which is 101, in Philadelphia, which is 101. And again, this was 101 days after my birthday. Technically, it was the day before, so it was the 101st day of my age. And these are the only two verses in the Bible this word appears in? What is going on? I smell a finger poke from God trying to point me in a certain direction here. And then Bobby also mentioned, although the word rainbow does not appear here, it does say bow in the cloud, and it's very clearly talking about a rainbow. And this covenant, this bow, is first mentioned. Look at this, Genesis 9:13, the date that Anarchadelphia started this year. And I mentioned 9:12 here because this is relevant. This was the date that I actually did see the rainbow, 9:12. And it just, this goes on and on. I could go deeper. Check out how this is, this Revelation 4:3, the first verse that shows the word rainbow. This leaves 330 verses left in the Bible. And that night, on my way to Harrisburg, I got a hotel, and my room number was 330. And that's funny because 33 is the master teacher number. Teacher equals 33. And I was there to teach about numbers. So, boy, I mean, everywhere I look, this organic matrix, the organic numerology that we're experiencing in this world just rears its head over and over and over again. And this is the kind of thing that I feel like I need to share because I talk about death and dying a lot in my videos and my work, and that sounds like a very, very dark topic, and it certainly is, especially if it's true that people are being murdered by the numbers, but people have to be aware that there's this other amazing side to it where, we're part of something greater, and we're getting messages from God through the numbers as it appears. I mean, how is this possible if that's not the case? So I just wanted to do this video and make sure everybody saw that. It's pretty cool stuff. And I did just want to give a shout out to Pat, Sonny, and Carmen. That was the other guy at Anarchadelphia. Everyone was really awesome to me while I was there. I thought the atmosphere was just great. Everyone there was open-minded and excited to talk about all the different topics. I'm not all that big and sold on cryptocurrency yet, but I think blockchain technology is absolutely a huge piece of the puzzle to breaking the chains, so to speak, of the slavery, essentially, that's been enacted through the Federal Reserve and the control of our money supply. If we can limit the things that government is necessary for through technologies like blockchain, which I believe can be used for more than just money. We're really going to be on the path to freedom, and it was very it was a little bit enlightening, but it was also very encouraging. I didn't expect to be as optimistic when I left that place as I was. So, there was a lot said about the speakers there by other people. Some of them they didn't trust. And look, I mean, if Gematria is important and it's the truth, then we have to try to give and show our truths in that presence. And I think this was a very positive experience. Again, I met several of the other speakers, all of whom were very interested in this topic. And some of the people who we thought might be shills are actually really interested and want to work with me on kind of spreading this with their audiences as well. So you may see Gematria talked about a little more on bigger YouTube channels within the next couple months here. It's something that I'm going to work towards, and it's too important of a topic for us to ignore as a truth community, because this definitely tells us something greater about our reality, and not just that, but what we truly are and what we're capable of. A lot of my presentation was about how things like The Secret, the law of attraction, are all very true. And not only is it true, but we can actually see evidence of the code by which this construct outputs these ideas and these beliefs back to us, because the universe is a reflection of what's going on in your mind. I definitely believe that. So over the next few days here, I'm going to be making a video on my presentation and share that with everybody so we can see the basics, but I couldn't help myself but share this first on this channel, as I thought it was pretty cool. So thanks again for everybody who jumped in and absorbing this stuff. It's a blessing to be able to share it with you guys. So peace, love, God bless, and we'll talk to you next time. See ya!